Joining us is Blaine Fowler, dual sport analyst for BYU football and basketball. Blaine, how you doing, brother?
I'm good.
We are 6 days away from Christmas.
Blaine,
Yeah.
why do you have this on?
In case you guys say something and we need to go. if we need to go, I'm dropping
Drop
this.
the glove.
I'm going to drop
Jason,
this.
yeah.
If we need to go, I'm dropping it, and then we're going.
Thanks to Matt Schneck of BYU Lacrosse for the glove.
No, it was just
Another
here, and I'm
thing.
like, hey,
Might as
because
well.
I haven't had a fight other than in hockey in a long time. So
Yeah. You went to a fight and saw a hockey game?
yeah, hockey
Yeah.
game broke out. That's
Yeah,
how
hockey
violent it
game broke
was.
out.
Just try to avoid having another fight.
We
today.
won't
Exactly.
We're not going to throw down today.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's lead with this. Kyle Collinsworth, as of 20 minutes ago, signed a two-way contract with the Mavs. What's your reaction to that news?
It's awesome, and he's been shooting the basketball really well. The big question for him was, can he consistently knock down outside shots well enough to play at that level, at the NBA level? And he's been making shots, and there's never been a question that he'd be a phenomenal rebounding guard in the NBA, that he can defend in the NBA, that he has good enough handles to play in the NBA. And so I think with this development of his shot, all of a sudden people are going, hey, you know what? This is worth an opportunity. And I don't want people to go, oh my gosh, Blaine's comparing what I'm going to say right now. But the big question about Kawhi Leonard was,
Oh my gosh, Blaine is
Yeah, I'm not-
comparing him to
no,
Kawhi
come on.
Leonard.
You know what? Throw off that glove.
no, come on. See, you know what? No, because I'm not. But
The idea.
Kawhi Leonard, everybody's like, he's a phenomenal defender. You know, Steve Fisher told me the best defender he's ever seen in basketball, period. Great rebounder, all these things. Could his shot develop to a level where he could be a really good offensive player in the end? But his defensive skills and rebounding skills were such that it's like, no question, he's a first-round draft pick. But is he going to be a great player? Let's see if his shot develops. Now look at the shot he has. So can you develop a shot late? Absolutely, you
It's
can.
not often
And
that
so,
that
so
happens.
now for Kyle, it's a little different. It's not, can he be one of the greatest players in the NBA? It's, can he develop his shot enough at this late stage of the game to be a good NBA player, to be able to compete in that league and play? I think he can. And his work ethic is phenomenal. And so great for him, I think. I think this is a good opportunity. And if he continues to shoot it the way he has been shooting it, then he's got a chance. Because everything else that he does fits an NBA skill set.
Full disclosure, we were scheduled to have Kyle on the show today.
Yeah.
And then the news broke, so now he's on his way to Dallas. They host the Pistons tomorrow.
I think it's
That'll
awesome.
be his first in-uniform game potentially for
Yeah,
them.
no, I'm a huge fan of his work ethic and all that he does, and so this is great. And then I'm a bigger fan of Shea. His wife is, she's a Davis Dart,
And she was an amazing track
and she's
athlete.
way more athletic than he is.
Yeah.
Let's just face it. She's the greatest athlete in their family, even if he makes it in the NBA.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, she's awesome.
So I'm watching for her. She'll be in the Olympics.
All right, we'll get back to some basketball. We certainly want to talk about what BYU basketball is doing right now, but I do want to ask you a football question. And our Twitter question today was obviously about Jeff Grimes, new offensive coordinator. What is your impression now of this hire for BYU?
It's the same as it was when they made the hire. I think with Jeff, they're getting a guy with tremendous experience. So he has been in a lot of high-level programs where he understands what makes good offenses work. And his intensity level, like my oldest son, Kellen, played when Jeff was here. And the first thing Kellen said was, oh, Dad, this guy, like he will hold people accountable, unbelievably intense, and he'll make everybody better because his demand that everyone be accountable, from the coaching staff that's going to work with them to every individual player, can't do anything but make this team better offensively. So they'll execute. And, I'm really anxious to see what staff he puts together, because I think that will have a big impact at how good they are. I heard Jeff say that a lot of play calling happens on Monday and Tuesday, and I agree with that. I agree with that 90%, because it does. You put a game plan together, but the difference between good offensive coordinators and great offensive coordinators are when you see a bunch of stuff that you didn't see on film in the first quarter of a football game, are you making adjustments on the second drive, or you wait until halftime to make those adjustments? The great ones circle them up after the first drive and go, listen, this is what we're seeing, and this is what we're going to do to counter it. And so I think a really good staff around him will make it a great staff, and they can be really, really good offensively. So that's important, who he brings with him.
Tomorrow is the early signing period, the first of 3 days where BYU can sign players. In fact, they plan on signing several players. Is there a particular position or positions that BYU needs to target?
Well, BYU needs to continue every year to target offensive and defensive linemen, because that's the lifeblood of what can make BYU be able to compete the way they want to compete. Now, remember, in his press conference, Jeff said, we're going to run the football. We've got to dominate the line of scrimmage. So that's not that big a departure from what Ty was saying that they wanted to do. And so I think it's very important for them to continue to stockpile good young talent on the offensive line. And then, it's some of these other positions that felt like they were a big need this last season. We've got to look back and remember how many guys were injured. Now, do I think they should go find a JC running back? I think they probably ought to go try to find a JC if they can get a quality. You don't just go get one because you think you need one. If you can find a high-quality JC running back, bring him in for the competition. But they should get Dye back, and they should get KJ Hall back, and Ula should be 20 pounds lighter and healthy, and Squally should come back healthy. And so it's not as dire as it looks when we're playing the seventh-string running back at the end of the season, because it was just an unbelievable rash of injuries. And tight ends seemed a little bit thin. It seemed like, hey, all we've got is Bushman. But, they've got other guys. Joe Tukuafu is going to be eligible finally and be able to play. And Bushman's going to be heavier and hopefully stay healthy. And Moroni should be back and not have a foot injury and be able to play. So some of the ones where you look at and go, man, we had a big need at that position this last football season. It wasn't because there was not talent or depth at that position. It was because devastating injuries, 2 and 3 and 4 deep, hit there. So to me, I think they're okay at a number of positions, but maybe a JC running back, and then always prioritize big guys up front on both sides of the football if you're BYU.
BYU basketball, 9-2 after a win versus Utah. Are they ahead of schedule where you thought? And what did you think of the Utah win?
Yeah, I think they're one road win ahead of where I thought they would be. And so getting to win at Princeton and getting a win kind of neutral against UMass, to me was big. And then, their roads, I think they're 1 or maybe even 2 ahead of where I thought they might be on the road. And so I think they're impressive right now. And the thing that impresses me the most is the intensity with which they play defense. And they have a kind of consistent level of defense they're playing. But what I like is you see them go at a critical time in a ball game, and they come into the huddle, and Dave Rose and Heath Schroyer and this staff says, we have to get consecutive stops right now. This is the most important time right now. We've got to get consecutive stops right now. And they go out, and they kind of have the moxie and the toughness to go in and get consecutive stops so they can dial up a little more intensity. They understand what they're doing defensively and get important stops when they have to. That really bode well for them on the road when they needed to get some stops, when maybe they're not shooting well.
Like at Utah State. They go 0 for 10 from 3 in the first half.
If you can stop people in critical times and make free throws, you can go on the road and have a bad shooting night and still win ball games. And to me, that's the biggest difference right now with this team compared to the last couple of years. And it's really impressive.
It's funny that you bring up defense because that actually is part of our stat of the day.
It's the BYU Sports Nation Stat of the Day.
BYU has held 6 straight teams under 70 points for the first time since 2008-2009. So going with what you were talking about, I think we all agree, I mean, that is a noticeable change. Can this keep up is the question, I guess.
I think it gets better because, to me, every game, offensively and defensively, they're a little more where it's just like I don't see him thinking. Early in the season, it seemed like, especially on the offensive end, I see him thinking. And defensively, every once in a while, thinking and then reacting. Every game, it seems to me that it becomes more natural what they're doing. Remember, this is a new offense and a new defense. I love the way they defend in threes. Like, they're there on the catch. They're not back in the paint closing out on three-point shooters. They're there on the catch. So when teams make threes against BYU, they're earning threes. They're defended threes. They're contested threes. Not closing out under control and just getting a hand up. But I'm there on the catch. If you make this thing, you're going to have to make a good shot.
You know, that reminds me of something that Coach Rose said after one of the games, and I can't remember which game it was, but it was on the post-game show on radio, and he was talking about the perimeter defense, and he's like, our goal is not to contest threes. Our goal is to eliminate them. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Allowing 5 fewer threes a game.
Yeah, it's just the shots aren't even there. So now they're not just hoping people miss as they recover out to them. They're like, no, we're not going to give you a good look. So instead of forcing one up, you're going to pass on it. You're going to shoot fewer. You're going to, so maybe even the percentage defensively is close to the same, but if you're just eliminating 5 of those shots a game, that's a big difference in a ball game, right? And then here's something that helps your defense. Offensively, they looked at some stats in the offseason, and they compared their shooting percentage on the first side. So when they bring the basketball down the floor, you usually start the offense on one side or the other. So that first pass goes in to, say, the right side. When they shoot from that right side on that first side, the shooting percentage over the last couple years is really low, like in the high 20s, low 30s. When they reverse the ball and get to the second side, then it dramatically goes up to over 50%. And now you get it to a third side, it even goes up from there, where they shoot in the high 50s and sometimes even the low 60s in games. And so they made a conscious effort that, you know what, unless we have a wide open shot on the first side, that ball is going to get moved, and we're going to force defenses to defend, and we're not going to be in a hurry. So now you have teams that are having to go down and defend this passing game and go from side to side and move. They're extending energy on the defensive end of the floor. BYU's working clock. Now they come down on the offensive end, and they've got tired legs because they're having to defend. And so they're having a hard time moving as quickly. They're not getting open. They're not cutting quite as hard. And so that offense is also contributing to their ability to get key stops defensively. So it's a combination thing. It's not just the defense is better. It's offensively they're more patient, and they're making other teams work hard defensively. It's a fun thing to watch. Offensively, it's a thing of beauty. And I've talked to a lot of basketball people, NBA scouts, and they're going, man, I am really liking the way this BYU basketball team plays. There's some really good talent on this team, and we're finally seeing with Elijah what Dave Rose was telling us about last year, what a healthy Elijah Bryant looks like.
Oh, my goodness.
But it's not that everybody's impressed with. They're impressed with how unselfish this team is, how patient they are offensively, and how they're guarding defensively. And it's fun to watch, guys.
There's been a paradigm shift with, I think, team culture, with schemes and whatnot, and it will be on display next Thursday night, 9 Eastern time on BYUtv with Blaine Fowler, Dave McCann on the call. On TV, Blaine, we appreciate the time, man.
Good to be with you guys.
Look forward to
I'm
Thursday,
glad we didn't have
Thursday
to drop,
night.
Didn't have to drop this.
Yep. We got close once, but
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't.